On this episode of the Sunday Roast, we review the all-important and all-talked-about 2017 Lions Tour of New Zealand. It was huge. We brought it to you in partnership with the OBR Foundation. Me and Bradley Richardson, we're going to talk about it on this episode, episode 1 of the Sunday Roast.
The Sunday Roast, brought to you by Jack O'Flaherty and Bradley Richardson with the OBR Foundation.
Yes, welcome on in for the first ever episode of the Sunday Roast, Season 01, Episode 01. As Ben Brownlee said in the tour, Bradley, I'm as excited as a Jack Russell on cocaine.
Yeah, I like how we're actually already assuming we're going to make it to double-figure episodes and series, setting our hopes high for this one.
Yeah, well, I have written on my run sheet, I've written S.01, so I have, that's a big target for me and us as a collective group here at PYJAMA. But today on the show, of course, as mentioned just before, we're taking a massive munch into the Lions Tour, and I'm pretty excited to jump into the depths of that.
Yeah, it's going to be a good munch, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, well, of course, we started in Whangarei, the far north, the land of the mighty Winston Peters, and the land of the mighty Taniwha at Toll Stadium, Okara Park as they called it, Bradley. And the Lions took that one 13 points to 7, but look, what an outstanding shift from the Barbarians.
Yeah, well, the Lions, of course, they arrived in the country about, 3 days before, so they weren't really up for a rugby match, whereas the Barbarians, biggest match some of these players will ever play, so they're really going to come out firing for it.
Who were your players of that game? Of course, we had a bit of a personal connection with Dwayne Sweeney, of course, playing with the same club as him as youngsters. There were some big standouts. Of course, Sam Anderson-Heather, the captain, scored a try in the first half. But, how did it all stack up for you?
Yeah, well, I think the performance that really stands out on the Barbarian side was that of Bryn Gatlin. He really brought his kicky game that night and, showed what he can be in the future.
Yeah, well, of course, I remember a conversation said on the news before the tour of Warren Gatlin in a press conference saying, well, son, we're both going to play the Lions, but unfortunately only one of us is going to win. Of course, Anthony Watson scored the first try of the tour for the Lions in the second half, and that was a good one at that as well. Match one, could the Lions be happy with what they did?
Oh, I think they'll just be happy to get the win on the board after just arriving in New Zealand, set a good start, set a good precedent for the tour.
Yeah, well, a little bit on the contrary in terms of the final result as they travelled down the highway to Eden Park. It's a bit of a fortress, isn't it? And, they haven't won at Eden Park at this tour, the Lions, and they faced this Blues team, went down 22 points to 16. Not really what they would have wanted.
Yeah, well, the Blues perceived as New Zealand's weakest rugby team, really. You got to wonder where that performance came from the Blues. They really came out firing.
Well, Rieko Ioane, let's be honest, he was probably a massively prominent figure in this tour with the Blues, and of course he scored that beautiful try with the All Blacks as well, so he's really showed his class throughout this tour, but he scored the opener in the Blues match and then responded by, of course, CJ Stunder, but I've just rejigged my mind by having a look at the replay just before. Bradley, I don't know if you can remember, but of course Sonny Bill Williams' try after an attempted kick at goal off the posts. We go to the TMO and he's just put his hand on it. That was a huge moment before the half-time break.
Yeah, the game was in the balance at that point. Blues really, they took the momentum into that half-time after that Sonny Bill Williams try. I think if it had gone the other way and it wasn't a try, the game would have been a lot even and we could have seen a different result at the end.
And, of course, Stephen Luatua's brilliant offload to Sonny Bill Williams and then a magnificent line to Ihia West in the later stages of the match to really conclude that one and wrap it on up for the Blues. We saw a few amazing tries this tour, but that's probably got to be up there with the best.
Oh, look, it was a hell of a try. It really kicked the Blues alight and hopefully they finish it off this season like that. Of course, Super Rugby starting again this weekend.
Well, we went with one of the probably the most exciting games of the tour from a New Zealand point of view, maybe not if you're a Lions point of view, but we went from that in the Blues game and we turned it right around for the Crusaders. So we go from probably the weakest Super Rugby team in the country in terms of New Zealand, and then we go to the best, and it was a shambles, Bradley.
Everyone expected the Crusaders to come out and really give the Lions a bit of a dicking, but of course that's what we didn't see. Crusaders couldn't really get into the game. The Lions played a good game. They shut the Crusaders down at what they were good at, and really, you know, that was really the start of their tour.
It was a hugely testy match. Emotions were firing. Look, it's probably one of the most boring rugby matches I've watched in a long time too.
Oh, it wasn't a good watch. You know, at half-time, you're wondering if this game is going to kick a light. It didn't. It really didn't.
Yeah, well, Owen Farrell, 4 penalties, Richie Mwanga, just the one. And, yeah, I've got really no other notes other than that because it was a boring one. And it was pretty hard to commentate as well, Bradley Richardson.
Yeah, we had to pull a few lines out of our ass for that match.
Yeah, well, we go, as I say, it's sort of an arms race of sorts because we go from Barbarians to Blues to Crusaders, you know, the boring one, and then boom, the Highlanders, probably my favourite match of the tour. That was one of the most insane matches I've ever seen. That was just outstanding under the glass in Dunedin.
You know, the roof isn't actually glass. It's more like a perspex plastic type material.
You get the gist of what I was saying.
That'd be really dangerous if it was glass.
I know. I apologise. Look, if I made any of the viewers feel the same, Bradley, well, I apologise to you guys as well. I apologise for the whole situation, Bradley. But let's get to the game. 23 played 22 under the perspex.
No, it's not perspex. It's like perspex.
Okay. Perspex-like material in Dunedin. Let's get to that.
It's the rugby everyone wanted to see the Lions play. It's the way the Lions were expected to play to be able to win. And of course they played that way and ended up losing to a New Zealand Super Rugby side.
Waisaki Naholo from the set-piece move to start it off with the try scoring. Relatively easy for him. Got the pill in his hands and all he needed to do was run over the try line. But Jonathan Joseph's try, a little bit more work for the Highlanders. And then 10-all at half-time. We really thought, you know, it could go either way, and it did turn out that way in the end, didn't it?
It was a match of two sides, really. Either one could have won it. But in the end, the luck of the draw fell with the Highlanders. Maybe it was a coin toss that offset that things beforehand. Maybe someone played poker the night before. You know, it's luck really played a big factor in that.
Let's move on. In the second half, of course, Tommy Seymour and Sam Warburton back-to-back tries for the Lions. And then Liam Coltman off the maul scored a try. Brilliant try. And that just set Forsyth Bar Stadium alight. But it was that scrum penalty, massive scrum by the Highlanders, and put the acid on the Lions. Big call from Angus Gardner. He had the balls to blow the penalty, as Romain Poit did in a big scrum in the third test match. We'll get to that soon, but a big call by Angus Gardner.
Yeah, really basic play by the Lions. Really let them down. You'll see what I did there because you referred to acid. I referred to a basic substance.
Well done, but of course they couldn't capitalise. They did capitalise rather, but then the Lions couldn't capitalise on their opportunity in the 22 from the set-piece scrum to go ahead with a magnificent try. Probably a fairy tale ending, but unfortunately the Disney go-aheads, they weren't there that night, so they didn't cast their magic wand and allow that fairy tale to happen.
Walt Disney's actually dead, so it was really impossible for him to attend that match.
Yeah, fair enough. And a match that I missed, and I was pretty gutted. I hit the school ball, unfortunately. The Māori All Blacks. That was number 5. Māori All Blacks versus the Lions. Bradley, I'll let you kind of take the reins on this one because you commentated it and I only watched the replay.
Yeah, well, I led the commentary that night. It was a bit of a shambles. You really didn't miss much. It was a shit match. Nothing really happened. The Lions scored points. They scored ugly points. And the Māori All Blacks didn't score any points. Well, a few.
Yeah, they did. They scored 10. 32 points to 10. And a massive penalty count by referee Jaco Piper. And, of course, the Lions kicked from where they could. They won the match because of it. Going through it, obviously the opening try by Liam Messam. Penalty try to the Lions, which is not the only penalty try we saw this tour. And of course Maro Itoje, and we'll get to him later on as well because he played outstanding throughout this tour. Then we get to the Chiefs. Bradley, you went to that game. It was a bit of a humdinger, if I may say so myself.
I wouldn't really call it a humdinger. It was another shit match. I think the highlight from that match was, of course, the refereeing videos that I took of them warming up with the, what is that called? Tension bands or some shit?
Oh, I don't know, but we'll have a look. Take a look.
Up to date with rugby in the country and elsewhere. Make sure you've got it if you don't have it on your phone already. It's your...
Yeah, not too sure what the referees were doing in that one. I caught up with them the day before at Frankton Rugby Club, had a bit of a chin wag. they're all second language speakers of English. So it's quite interesting that they're controlling the test matches. Anyway, we get to the game. Jack Knowles scored the first try. Pretty close at half-time, 13-6, but the second half really blew it away. Yeah, well, I said penalty try. We had a second penalty try of the tour at the Mall, a collapsed Mall, and subsequently a yellow card to the Chiefs. Jack Knowles scored, and then a homecoming for the Hamilton boy who's played his rugby in Hamilton for a long time and played for Waikato, of Jared Payne. He gets a meat pie in the green zone end of the stand, of the stadium rather. A big moment for him.
Yeah, really, really big moment. Of course, scoring in front of green zones, every player's dream to score in front of that stand. Of course, not really a stand, just a grass embankment with a bit of concrete.
Damn straight. And we get to the big one. The huge first test that was awaited, well, for a long time, 12 years, and we wanted to see it. And the All Blacks, they came out guns blazing. The Lions, well, someone must have sung a warm away, the Lions sleep tonight, because they didn't come to the party at Eden Park.
Yeah, well, you have to say in the end that's what really cost them the tour win. All Blacks dominant in that test match. Scoreboard didn't really tell it. Of course, only 15 points in it. All Blacks scoring only 30. A lot of points they didn't convert. Lions not really getting many opportunities that match.
Yeah, Cody Taylor on the wing, on the right wing, finished off in the corner with a bit of a slide. Got his grin on the front page of the New Zealand Herald because of it the next day. Sean O'Brien try. Well, that was another one of those amazing tries in this tour. Liam Williams gets it from the 22, runs and gets his getaway sticks out of there and camps himself into the All Black territory. And a couple of passes later off to Sean O'Brien. That was probably one of the tries of the tour.
Oh, it was a hell of a tour, a hell of a moment. Lions scoring their first test try of the test matches. Of course, that last one later on, really a consolation try by the halfback Conor Murray.
Yeah. No, Reece Webb. Close enough. It was close, but no cigar. No, it wasn't. It was Reece Webb. He came off the bench and got a meat pie. But you were close in the halfback aspect, and I think everyone can say, good job, Bradley. You gave it a good go. But Rico Ioane played pretty well that night as well. 2 tries to him. Yeah,
he's pretty much cemented himself in that All Blacks squad now. And of course, for the next 2 matches, didn't really have the sort of showing he did as he did in that first match later on.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm thinking positively here, and probably one of the most positive matches of the tour is the next one. Number 8, the Hurricanes. Well, Bradley Richardson, you take us through that, because I had a migraine and didn't watch it. I watched the highlights, and that was outstanding.
That was my favourite match of the tour. Lions really had a good lead, about 10-15 points or so. The Hurricanes come back, and they kept coming. No one thought they'd actually get there, but they did. They didn't quite get there with 31-all draw.
Well, of course, Tommy Seymour scored the opener for the Lions. One of 2 tries he scored that night. Callum Gibbons and George North scored as well in the first half, but the second half was really lit up by the yellow card, of course, by Ian Henderson. It threw the game right open.
Yeah, Ian Henderson had a superb night that night. Before that yellow card, some was saying during that he actually played himself into the Lions team, which he did later on, of course. Got the yellow card. Hurricanes scored 2 tries, and that's where the match really hit its turning point.
Yeah, Wes Goosen and Via Fafita after that. Look, and then the missed drop goal. To be honest, it was never a realistic chance for a drop goal to go over from where he took it.
Well, unless it was Mitchell Hunt, anything's possible if that's the case.
Amen, sister. We get to the second test, and this is where a lot more talking points happen in the same venue as what the Wednesday night game was of course the All Blacks versus the Lions second test. 21 the All Blacks, 24 the Lions, and well, Owen Farrell, he was superb that night, wasn't he?
Interesting decision. I wasn't quite too sure of it before we came into it, but it really showed why that selection was made. Of course, Owen Farrell defence is top notch. Really, that's a key point the Lions wanted to work on coming into that match.
I know, and look, Sonny Bill Williams, probably the biggest talking point of that match.
At least a little bit of
one. Yeah, I reckon. Look, in your opinion, Bradley, do you think it was the Lions that won themselves the game, or Sonny Bill Williams that lost it?
Before that third and final test match, you'd say it was the All Blacks and Sonny Williams that lost themselves that match. But of course, the Lions still had to play good rugby if they wanted to come out with a result, which they did. And you have to give them credit for that. Some people didn't, some people did. I'm on the camp where they should deserve some credit for that win.
Yeah, well, look, you can take it if you want, but the All Blacks trialists in that match, something we've never really seen in a long time. We think the All Blacks defence is just absolutely sublime, and look, to see no tries for them though, that's absolutely unprecedented by the Lions team.
Yeah, well, they're versing a really, really good side. It's hard to score tries against a good side when you're down to 14 men. I've tried myself. Doesn't really work that well.
Yeah, well, Marco Vunipola, he went off in a bit of a stupid move of giving a shoulder into the face of Beauden Barrett. Not the greatest of moves from him. Possible red card. I'm not going to comment on that because we're going to fire some people up. Actually, I will, because I want to fire some people up. That's what we do here. Red card all day, every day, in my opinion. It was no different to what Sonny Bill Williams did. In fact, I think there was more intent from Marco Vunipola than there was by Sonny Bill Williams. Move on, and Talupi Faletau, he scored the try, the one try of the match, and 77th minute, well, that's when it all turned around, and the Lions put themselves ahead for the first time in the series through way of a great kick in the swirling wind of the Cape Tin. Owen Farrell, well, he's the Iceman, isn't he?
Yeah, cool under pressure. Got a hell of a kick up routine. Don't really understand it. Reminds me of shades of Dan Bigger, Johnny Wilkinson, all those British and Irishmen. They really have weird ways of kicking, but it somehow works. That's the style of the rugby they play over there.
Well, let's move to the last game, number 10, 10 of 10, and the one that everyone is talking about. The third test, 15 all. Let's start with the positives. Let's start with the tries. Ngani Laumapi, after a beautiful cross kick from a perfectly timed cross kick by Beauden Barrett to his brother Geordie, and tapped in for a brilliant try.
A bit of brotherly telepathy maybe going on there. Reminds me of the days of Undercover Coach on Disney Channel, that sort of scenario.
Look, I think your Disney Channel Undercover Coach is really, that minded.
How far has someone actually got from Undercover Coach? Like, are they actually any proper sportsmen from it?
Look, if anyone's listening and they were on Undercover Coach, tell us where you are.
Or know someone on it?
Yeah. Tell us where you went and how far you went.
We should try and get some interviews with them. Track them down.
Yeah.
I'll get my people to contact their people. Yeah. My people being myself.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Their people probably being themselves too.
Yeah, damn straight. Well, we'll get back to the game, and of course, Geordie Barrett scored a try himself after that, after a brilliant ball, but by who other than Ngani Laumapi? Well, of course, it was actually Anton Leonard-Brown, but it was a brilliant round-the-back ball by Ngani Laumapi to Anton Leonard-Brown. Easy try after that catch and pass to Geordie Barrett, but a special moment for him to first test try.
Yeah, a lot of contention about that selection coming into the match. No one know how he would really go. Came out, try assist in that first one, scored a try himself, silenced some critics, and really, took a couple of steps forward to cementing a place in that All Black squad. Jerome Kano, yellow card for a head-high tackle, a massive moment, and not only the game, but the whole tour and the result of it as well. Probably the right call, I agree. But we'll get to some other refereeing calls in a moment, and actually we'll get to it now, because the scrum penalty right in front of the posts on a defensive scrum, Romain Poit in an attacking scrum rather, Romain Poit gives a penalty against the Lions right in front of the sticks for Beauden Barrett to pump it over. Is it the right decision? I think so as a referee, but I'm not a front row, Bradley Richardson. With every scrum you're going to have contention either way, and what's right and what's wrong. It's really up to the interpretation of the referee. He interpreted it one way, some people interpret it a different way, and in the end, the other people don't really matter because it's the ref that blows the whistle.
Amen, exactly. Well, of course, it was Wyatt Crockett put the acid on Kyle Sinclair, and he crumbled under the pressure after 2 resets. Really, hands were tied at that moment for Romain Poit. But look, that was at 77 minutes. The 77 minutes mark was actually Wyatt Crockett getting penalised for not rolling away. But Conor Murray, well, he milked that, didn't he? He milked that, and as any halfback does, maybe good play from him, but it's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, that happens all the time though. New Zealand does it, so I can't really see us being angry at it.
Yeah, it was rough. You feel sorry for him, but look, I mean, Romain Poit again, his hands were tied. But one thing that his hands weren't tied for was the call he had a minute later after the kickoff, and there was confusion all over the planet about that one.
Yeah, well, no one actually knew really what was happening. Some people, they were questioning decision to go to the TMO and then against protocol, but I think the right decision was made, the accidental offside. Of course, it's just natural. If I throw something at Jake, of course he's going to go and catch it. You can't accidentally use your reactions, your instincts. You know, it's primal. We've had them for millions of years, and I'd like to see you not have them.
Yeah, Ken Owens, I mean, look, you're on a rugby field, your prime objective is to hold on to the ball, and when it comes to you, even in an offside position, you try and catch it. You saw immediately what he tried to do, and to be honest, I'm not really liking the reaction of the New Zealand public against these French referees, saying that Jerome Garcias wasn't the greatest in the second test, and that Romain Poit wasn't the greatest in the third. Bradley, is it a little bit of hostility over the Rainbow Warrior? Is New Zealand over the Rainbow Warrior attack?
That's always going to be sour in the minds of New Zealanders, especially the ones who are around, who lived through that tumultuous time. But I think what it really comes down to is New Zealand fans, whenever the All Blacks lose or draw a match, they try and blame everyone but the All Blacks for the performance.
I agree. I was in the car with my mother after that game, and she went nuts, saying he's horrible. What the hell is he doing? Why was he refereeing? He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. I probably said that twice, but she said it many times more than that. Okay.
How many times?
I didn't count, but it was a lot. It was a hell of a
10,
lot.
More than 10?
Probably more than 10. Yeah, I agree. The Lions now, look, they draw the series with a 15-all draw at the death in Auckland. But look, they won. Well, they were winning for 3 out of 240 minutes of rugby. Surely the Lions can be satisfied with a drawn series, and the All Blacks, they must be bitter. Brady, your thoughts on the Lions, and of course what the All Blacks should be feeling as well.
Yeah, I don't know really how to feel afterwards. The Lions, they've got to be happy. Of course, the team, they're not looking to build towards the future. They're just looking to get results. So that winning for only 3 minutes isn't really going to play in their minds at all. They're going to be happy with the results they got. Of course, no one really gave them a chance going into that series, and to come out with a form of a result and to kind of get the trophy, but not really, they've got to be happy with it, surely.
Our standouts of the tour, we've got a few, and we've made a few. I think they've made a few fans, these boys, haven't they, in the Lions? And
just a couple.
We'll start with the big man who captained the first test. Unlucky to be not involved in the second, but look, Peter O'Mahony. He must be probably the most sour person in that Lions team.
Played that first match, as you just said. Didn't play any other match after that. Kind of weird situation. Maybe something happened. Maybe he got a little bit of morning sickness every morning from then on afterwards.
Yeah, no, definitely. Maro Itoje, though, he's a favourite of yours.
Yeah, mainly just because his name. I love when people refer to him as Mario. Not quite a Mario, not quite Italian. Close enough, though. And Shitty's hell of a rugby player. Hell of a lock. Of course, that Hurricanes match, taken off early, signed that he was going to play those last 2 test matches, and Shitty deserved it.
Yeah, well, he was daddy longlegs of the tour, wasn't he, Maro Itoje? But I tell you, the man who was built like a brick shithouse was CJ Stander. He scored. He was the first forward to score for the Lions team during this tour. He was a favourite of mine. He didn't make it on to start any of the tests, but look, honestly, I loved his work.
Oh, he was impressive in those non-test matches. Really struggled to make that step up to the test matches, which is why I don't think he really got to play any minutes. But I think he can be proud of his contribution to this Lions side. Of course, probably looking for selection in another 4 years.
The man who I'm probably most impressed with, though, Owen Farrell, he basically kicked the team to a series draw. Surely he needs the player of the tour for that
golden
team.
boot.
Oh, he
Literally.
needs the golden boot.
I think the next match he plays, he has to wear full golden boots.
Look, he's my favourite, without a doubt. A little bit of a strange rooster when it came to his kicking routine, but look, conversions 2 out of 4 and penalties 10 out of 10. That is your reason why the Lions were in this tour, and the All Blacks, not as great a kicking percentages, penalties 11 of 15 and 4 of 5 conversions. The average score throughout this series with the All Blacks and the Lions was 22 points to 18. You know, as a New Zealander, I'd love to take that. I'd love to take that and say, look, we won the series, but Look, the Lions, geez, they really surprised a lot of these New Zealanders.
Yeah, they pulled a cat out of the bag. Surprises everywhere. It's like a good magician. You never know what's going to come out where. Maybe the Lions getting into a bit of magic, a bit of voodoo-ness.
Maybe they went and saw what's his name, Chris Angel.
Mind Freak,
or
Dynamo.
Dynamo. Well, look, scrums, New Zealand probably. This is New Zealand's strong point of the tour. 27 out of 27 scrums that the All Blacks had the feed in, they won. That is outstanding by the All Blacks, especially the front rowers.
Yeah, the All Blacks scrum put under pressure by the media and the public before their first Test match really silenced those critics pretty early on with a dominating performance.
Yeah, and they also won 3 opposition scrums as well. Not to mention that massive penalty as well. A few questions at the last as we wrap up our chinwag, our yarn, our anecdotes of this tour is were the All Blacks unlucky, Bradley?
Yes and no. In some aspects, they were on the other receiving end, of some wrong decisions, but you got to look at it from the other side, and that they needed to play better if they wanted to get those wins in the end, and they just didn't do that. They didn't lift their performances to where it needed to be.
On the contrary, can the Lions be happy coming away with a draw? Can they be satisfied going back to their homeland in Britain and Ireland? Can they be happy with what they did in New Zealand?
I think they can be relieved that they've got something out of this tour. Of course, they would have loved to have won and to really give a big FU to New Zealand rugby media and fans, but I think a draw is satisfying enough because it's left a sour taste in New Zealand rugby.
Oh, very much so. But look, probably the biggest decision, probably the biggest question rather, from all of the New Zealand public, especially the media, which I think is very wrong, is were the refereeing appointments of the last 2 tests correct?
I think the best men were selected for the job outside of those countries of the Britain and Ireland and New Zealand. There are always going to be other refs that people will say could have done a better job, but of course they weren't in that position, so we'll never know.
Well, it's what rugby is, isn't it? And Angus Gardner, he was a good referee, but a lot of people said, look, these men remain quite. He'd refereed the 3rd Test match, the decider, way back at the last tour in Australia, and we had Jaco Piper, Super Rugby finals. He's got some experience under his belt, who did the first, and Jerome Garcias, the man they call Mr. Bean. He had the second, which Rugby World Cup final in 2015. So look, let's be honest. Refereeing, well, sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. That's just the beauty of rugby, and that's why we all love it. And look, at the end, after a week of chilling out about the refereeing decision and accepting that it's a drawn series, I can say, look, it's a pretty good one, and I'm happy for the experience, and there was some bloody good rugby on show. The Lions, they won 5. They lost 2. Did they lose 2? They lost 3, and they drew 2. So these are your stats. Boom, shakalaka. Well, that wraps up Sports Talk, the first ever episode of the Sunday Roast. Ladies and gentlemen, stay with us.